Don't delay this process of turning back to Allah. At least if you made the intention to turn back to Allah and you die in that process before actually doing it, a sincere intention that, you know what, Allah, I'm genuinely going to turn back to you, Allah would reward you for that. Assalamu alaikum, and we're back with another episode of the Jahiliyyah Diaries. And if you haven't been able to tell, I'm in the beautiful, beautiful house of Allah, the Mosque of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Masjid al-Nabawi. Such a beautiful place, mashallah. And I just wanted to start off by saying, Jazakallah khair for all the love and the support, guys. It means the world to me. Just knowing that you guys are benefiting and that you're improving from these Jahiliyyah Diaries, and I'm saving you time, effort, and energy so that you're not getting harmed or hurt in the process is such a blessing to me. And today's Jahiliyyah Diary is about why I used to hate the masjid. Now, before you understand why I hated the masjid, you need to understand my relationship with the masjid before getting into it. My first experience with the masjid, besides the typical Jummah prayer, Eid Salah kind of deal, was a punishment. I was in 8th grade at the time. I was in middle school. What had happened was I decided to stay after school to play some basketball with my friends. Now, the right thing for me to have done would have been call my mom and say, hey mom, I'm playing basketball after school and I just want you to know that I'm going to be a little late. But that's not what my 13-year-old mind did. My 13-year-old mind was like, don't worry, I don't need to call my mom. It'll be fine. I'll get home. It's not like she's worried about me or anything. And I was wrong. My mom was extremely worried about me. I got home somewhere around maybe 7 in the evening. It was dark and my mom was completely worried about me. And when I got home, I got the pow treatment, if you know what I mean. As a punishment to teach me a lesson, my mom decided that the best thing for me to do after school, instead of playing basketball, wasting my time, or having fun, was to go to an after-school program in the masjid. I want to pause right here because there's a lot of parents who treat the masjid and Quran and Islam as a punishment. I know people who send their children to madrasa. I know people who send their children to the masjid because of this exact same thing. They're doing something wrong, they're doing something naughty, and then you just want to teach them a lesson. Oftentimes, the Quran teachers, sometimes depending on how old school they are, they're probably even smacking the child, and that sort of creates a long-lasting, painful type of association that that child will have with the Quran, the masjid, and essentially Islam. And when they think about Islam, they're going to be thinking with a negative lens or a connotation because that's what they've associated with Islam, negativity. So as you can imagine, I'm basically at this masjid, frustrated, upset because I don't want to be here right now. I would rather be playing basketball with my friends after school. And imagine me telling my friends when they ask me, bro, we're going to go play basketball after school. And I'm all like, nah, bro, I gotta go do something. And they would ask me, obviously, oh, what do you have to do, bro? What's more important than basketball? And I would respond, I gotta do something, man. I gotta go to this, it's like church. I gotta go to this church. And then they would say, wait, you're going to church after school? You gay. It was really tough to explain to my friends about what I was actually even doing. And I was uncomfortable with my religion anyways, and I was shying away from identifying myself to be Pakistani, which then caused me to not identify myself to be a Muslim. And what happened was that I was super shy and I was already having a tough time in middle school, and this only made my time even more difficult. So I go to this masjid and I am completely miserable. I'm talking about like, I don't want to be there. I want nothing to do with this place. But the masjid experience wasn't as bad as I thought. It was really cool from the perspective that I made some friends, right? Like I made some masjid friends, and I realized that there were a lot like me, not kids necessarily who was punished. And I would ask these kids, what did you do wrong for your parents to send you here? And they were like, nothing, we didn't do anything wrong. It's just our parents want me to learn how to read Quran and stuff like that. And I'm thinking in my head that, man, like I could understand if my parents sent me for that reason, but I know for a fact that my parents sent me because it was a punishment. And that's something I really couldn't get over. And I remember like the kids in the masjid were super cool and everything like that, don't get me wrong. And we would have the same type of fun that anyone else would have. We would go and trade Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards, and we would play them in the masjid as well too. Like it's happening right now. But the reason I'm sharing this story with you guys is because my first relationship with the masjid, so to speak, was a negative one. If my mom would have just said that, hey, we're gonna do this thing on Saturdays as well, I want you to go to it for the reasons of making some friends, for you learning how to read Quran, learning some stuff, and incentivized it, I would have taken it in a much better way or in a different type of way. But I completely wanted to run away from the program. No matter how cool it was, no matter how many friends I was making, at the end of the day, I still wanted to run away from from the masjid, because it wasn't the masjid that I was running away from. I was running away from my religion. I was running away from my own identity because I was ashamed of my identity, because I didn't understand my identity. And the reason I decided to share this Jahiliyyah diary and not some, hickey first kiss type of, Jahiliyyah diary with you guys. First kiss sounds like a good Jahiliyyah diary. Tell me in the comments below if that's a good idea or not. I mean, this specific Jahiliyyah diary, guys, is because I'm in Masjid Nabawi right now, and like there would be no better place for me to ever want to be than the house of Allah, and especially this house of Allah. And it's so contrary to how I used to be that it's such a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing how I was or how I used to be, brought me over here. And that led me to one specific conclusion that I want to share with you guys. Allah does not care who you were, but Allah cares who you are. Allah is not concerned with who you once used to be, but Allah wants to see who you are today. And the amount of growth that you've made as a person, so you can remember who you used to be and then who you are right now. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you to use that as growth for you to measure your own self and your own success. So if you're currently in a situation where, your deen is just not the best, your salah right now is just not the best, you're thinking in your mind, man, like I could do this a little better, just know that Allah loves you for who you are and how you are. But Allah wants you to be a better version of yourself. So if you're someone who feels like they can be a better version of themselves, if you're someone who feels like, I'm not doing my best, I'm gonna own that really quick, that I'm not being my best self right now, but I know what I'm capable of and I know I could turn it around. I want you to turn it around. Me being in front of this house of Allah, I wanted to share the story with you because you need to understand that where you are right now is not going to dictate where you're going to end up. But I don't want you to be so hopeful you start to neglect the fact that you got to put in the work. If you're not putting in that work, the time, the effort, the energy to actually, the intention, the actions to align with that intention, to back up that intention, doing this wishful thinking. That's not how this works. Your intentions is to get closer to Allah, then your actions need to be aligned to that. Don't think for a second that you are somehow magically going to get to be a specific age and then get to come to Umrah and change your life around, or do Hajj and change your life around. Just know that you have to make that intention right now. Start to change your life around right now. Make the intention right now. Because I can promise you, and anyone who's been to Umrah, you could vouch for this statement. After every single salah, there's been a janazah. After every single salah, there's been a janazah. Don't think for a second that you're going to make it to tomorrow. Just don't. Don't delay this process of turning back to Allah. At least if you made the intention to turn back to Allah and you die in that process before actually doing it, a sincere intention that, Allah, I'm genuinely going to turn back to you, Allah would reward you for that. But you need to understand something, that your actions need to back that up. Don't think that you're just going to get to a specific age and then flip on the switch and just be like, it's time, I'm ready to turn back to Allah. That's not how this thing works. If you want to turn back to Allah, you need to make the intention and back it up with an immense amount of action to make sure that you fulfill that promise that you're making to Allah and essentially yourself. What I started to do was I started making excuses to not go to the masjid anymore, and eventually I stopped going to the masjid. And that was because I didn't want to be there anymore, and I was in high school and I didn't want to be associated with anything with Islam, and that's in my other Jahiliyyah diary. Jazakallah khair for listening, guys. I really truly appreciate it. It means the world to me that you joined me on this journey. I want to know in the comments below, what was your experience like with the masjid? How was your connection with the house of Allah? Tell me in the comments below. Did you enjoy doing it? Was it something that you hated going to the masjid like I did? It was something I ran away from, and it was something I wanted to run away from. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and if you had some cool Umrah stories, I would love to hear them. Tell me in the comments below, and please smash this with a thumbs up and a like if you really benefited from this video. Jazakallah khair once again for listening. I appreciate you and love you all for the sake of Allah. Now it's time for me to sign off, but there's like a bunch of people watching me doing this right now, but I guess it's pretty cool. Love you all for the sake of Allah. I'm out.